Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here. Welcome to another episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are in the middle of a series on a once every 10-year study done by the US government about the impact of automation on jobs. So this is a big deal because it's only done literally once every 10 years. And you've been hearing in the last two videos, and you will hear in this video and the next one, about the actual expected impact due to AI and robotics on jobs. So this is big stuff. But real quickly before we do that, remember to check out my book on Amazon, The Beginner's Guide to AI. The link is below. It's a quick read, only a couple of hours for the whole book. History and current impact on 10 different industries. So check that out. And also the other link below is a free resource to learn more about AI, why it's going to have the biggest impact of any single thing on your working career over the next 20 years. So you want to learn about it. Click the link below. The resource is free. Everything in the resource is free. And if you do get the resource, it will give you the opportunity to take my beta course in which I walk you through a career change that will put you in a field that's relatively AI safe. So you can't beat that. So check that out. So thanks so much, and let's get right back into this. So the first time we talked a lot about the methodology that they used to do this study. Go back 2 videos if you want to check that out now. Last video we talked about some of the assumptions beyond methodology that they used, and I talked about where those made sense and where they don't. So this time we are at the final criteria that they're using, or assumption, and it's called task and job variation within occupations. So they say an economy not only grows over time, but becomes more diversified. This is certainly true because innovation happens and new products and services are invented all the time. So economies do become more diversified. However, there is some loss of older industries. The buggy whip industry is gone, as a good example. They go on to say, this principle can be extended to certain tasks within the occupations we will study as well. When technology substitutes for some tasks within an occupation, it is possible that workers will be shifted to others, sometime new tasks, rather than simply losing their job. Certainly that is potentially true. Even when jobs within an occupation correspond more closely to the assumptions about job loss, these jobs may contain more tasks that are difficult to automate than is commonly recognized, which may slow the replacement of human workers by machines. This is possible as well. We assume by default that the effects of technological substitution are stronger than the effects of economic growth and other offsetting variables. One thing that they do not take into account is loss of buying power, which is a separate issue from being moved to a different job or losing your job. Losing your job certainly results in loss of buying power. We'll talk about that another time. So they use 2 sources for this data, and then we're going to talk about some of the specific occupations. 10-year projections of occupational growth from the Employment Projections Program, and the other one is their regular employment statistics that they do each month. So they do mention that some critics of Bureau of Labor Statistics projections say that BLS projections lag technology developments. because some occupations identified as vulnerable to substitution by robotics and AI may have been affected by previous waves of computing technology. I'll comment on that in 1 second. And may continue to experience these effects. This article also examines growth trends for the 1999 to 2009 period to make sure that the effects aren't from a previous generation of technology change, aka the buggy whip. So this is super interesting when you get into all these tables that they have about the jobs that may or may not be lost. Interestingly, many of the jobs that people typically say will be lost to automation, the BLS says there will not be net job loss in those occupations. What are those occupations? Let me give you a few of those. Janitors and cleaners, they say, will not suffer major job losses. Fast food and counter workers will not suffer major job losses. They say, very interestingly, heavy tractor trailer drivers, long haul, industrial truck and tractor, that's local, not affected, and laborers and freight, not affected. Now, it's super interesting to me, anyway, what they say will be affected. One of them is computer programmers, but that is not software development. That's actual programming of computers, not developing software, which they put in two different categories. And I think they're referring to mainframe computer systems, which are giving way to much smaller computer systems or the cloud, because it's much more powerful in the aggregate than those old computer systems, mainframes and mid-range computer systems. Those are definitely fading out, but that's a prior effect. But I thought it's interesting that they said surgeons. They also mention first-line supervision of retail sales workers and retail salespersons will both decline. Cashiers, telemarketers, and people who take reservations and stuff like that. Why? Because people are now doing it themselves. Because who wants to wait on hold for 30 minutes to get a human being on the line anymore? So those are really, really interesting things that they have picked out. They basically are saying that the sectors that are going to be most affected, a lawyer's not affected, by the way, but some white collar and supervisor positions are going to be those primarily affected, not frontline workers except in retail, and surgeons are going to be affected, but not patient care, nurses and stuff like that. So this is very, very interesting. They're basically contradicting all the current literature. I'm going to discuss more about that. I'm going to read their conclusion from the study and then discuss more about that. But the thing I did want to mention real quickly that I said, I'll get to that in a minute, was where they say that, waves of prior computing technology basically are not different than AI and robotics. I completely disagree with that assertion. I'll tell you why. All you have to do to prove my point is go to Boston Dynamics website, look at a 3-year-old video of one of their robots. One of their 2-leg humanoid robots could barely walk 3 years ago, could not climb stairs. Now they can walk over anything, run, do backflips, and they're even training them for combat. Stupidly, in my opinion, but that's what they're doing. So I think that the base assumption in that regard that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, has made is just flat out wrong. Time will tell. We'll see when they do their next study in 2029. It may be too late for some people by then, but we'll see about that as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Get my book, link below. Also, free AI resource, link below. And thanks for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. Next video, we wrap up this whole series. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.